All right. Great. Okay.
YouTube sabotaging this live stream. I like that.
So yeah, we thank you. So I think my audio is on. Good. Okay. So I'll mute yours, and then I'm talking. Okay. So we're gonna get through this. I think I figured it out actually. So we're gonna start. I think by framing this with what Armchair Historian I think has been going through, because I think I could tell your frustration was at a maximum. I think it was a couple weeks ago now, and it's something that all of us history YouTubers had been thinking about. So, if you want to explain, like, what led up to you making that video, where you're just like, you know what, I'm about to just like unlist all my videos, and then if you want to tell the whole from beginning to end, okay?
And let's just make sure that the audio is okay, just in case, because every time I've been speaking, people have been complaining. We'll see. All right, we have 2 people who said F in the chat, so I don't know if they can hear me or not. Audio's okay. Someone says audio's okay. Audio's good. All right, we're ready to go. So yes. All right, just wanted to double check. Yeah, so like for my entire like YouTube career, I've had very few videos demonetized, and I've just had a very easy experience with monetization. And I used to hear a couple people complain about it, but I never took it too seriously because nothing on my channel got demonetized. And then those people who were complaining about it, they didn't say every one of their videos got demonetized. So I thought it was something that rarely happened if you got a little too controversial. And I was thinking, well, I don't cover like genocide or anything like that, so I'll be okay. And then recently, along with YouTube making a lot of very quick, impulsive decisions, removing verification badges, putting verification badges back, a glitch where people had 0 subscribers, and then you can see your subscribers back, another glitch in the analytics where all of your views went down, and then they came back. Just tons of these little changes coming up along just around that time. I noticed that just a regular video that I had released, it got demonetized, and okay, whatever, I'll ask for the review, and it always gets monetized after I get the review. Well, they review it and they confirm it's not monetizable. And that's the first time that had happened to me. And I was thinking, okay, I don't get ads, but whatever, that's not a big deal. Well, I checked the analytics, and along with stripping away ads, I think there's an important distinction to make, because you hear demonetization, the word is demonetization, like you're not making money off of it. Well, on top of that, if YouTube can't take a cut of the ads you're making because there's no ads on it, they have no incentive to promote your videos. So it's really less of demonetization and more about video suppression. So the video was blowing up to be one of the fastest like growing videos I had ever released, and it got like 100,000 views in a day, and I never am able to hit that. Usually it takes a couple weeks to get the traction going. But the video just completely died and flatlined in the analytics as soon as the demonetization happened. So YouTube stopped showing it to people. And as soon as that happens, the brand deals I work with, which are based off of, like, you have to gain a lot of views on your videos, and that's how you get paid based on that. You know, if you're not getting at least 100,000 views, well, you're not even going to break even, especially when we're putting quite a lot of money into the production, especially with like animation and artwork in our videos. And so that was already like, that already really like stung. And then I'm like, okay, maybe it's just one video. We talked about Vietnam, so we're getting a little more modern. It's a little past World War II, so it might be touchy to people. Okay, fine. We never do Vietnam. We'll stay away from that. So I released another run-of-the-mill World War II video, as I normally do. And that one gets demonetized and confirmed, just like the old ones, too. And so I started noticing a trend. And that's basically, I release 2 videos a month, and they're high production videos. That pretty much strips away my entire month's worth of income just off of these 2 small decisions that are made. And so it's very scary when that happens. And so I was quite irate. I was pretty angry and upset about that. I had posted this like 40-minute live stream of me kind of venting and being quite frustrated, I had unlisted all of my videos for the day as an act of protest, just to get people's attention to say, hey, look, if this continues to happen on my channel, look, everything's gone. This will be essentially the future of the channel if this were to continue. And that's not an that's not exaggerating. If YouTube keeps demonetizing the videos, there's absolutely nothing I can do about that unless we turn to crowdfunding. And even then, the videos are so expensive that I would feel so uncomfortable asking for like thousands of dollars to profit off the videos again. So it left me in a very precarious situation, a situation I'm still in right now. But I've started to learn a couple things, and maybe we'll discuss that a little later on after we talk about our experiences about how we can kind of combat demonetization, because I'm kind of feeling out the situation. And since my 2 videos got shut down, I've managed to have a little bit of luck recently with more of my recent releases.
Okay, good. Hey, we might try muting our own microphones when we're not talking. If you're able to do that, that might help. That way we. Okay.
Oh, okay.
All right. So I want to jump now to Joe. He's been having the same issue. Oh gosh, sorry. To Cypher.
Cypher, yeah.
Cynical Historian. And while you're talking, I'm going to show on the screen all of the videos that that have been demonetized. And you've been dealing with this for years. And so if you want to go into your
Absolutely. And even what I sent you, it changes all the time. So where should I start? Because I've had problems since before the So look, when it started for me was that they started not just like the yellow sign, they had a black sign that literally just took away all monetization and retracted anything that you had earned before that. For instance, I remember Jabsy made a video about it a while back in like 2016. That's how long ago this
Cypher,
is.
really quick. Let me just interrupt one last time. Everyone in the chat seems to be, really freaking out. I don't know. Some people are saying it's fine, but we have a whole list of Fs.
Oh, it's better now.
It's better now? Okay, good.
Wait, is it just me?
It's fine now. I fixed the problem. Just keep talking.
Okay. Okay. So when the adpocalypse happened, that was actually kind of a lifesaver for me, because suddenly all of those things got remonetized, and I had like 20 videos that were completely demonetized at that point when the adpocalypse happened. And I was going good for a little bit, and then I made a video that became really popular called 10 Common Slavery Myths, and that thing just blew up like crazy, and I finally learned what the yellow demonetization thing really did, because it was going at like 10,000 views an hour, 100,000 views an hour for a little bit. It was crazy. And then demonetization happened, and it just died immediately. It was one of the fastest growing videos I've ever seen, and that's like YouTube period. And yet, as soon as they killed it, it was gone, and it got remonetized after that. But the momentum of the video was just done. It's still a really popular video and still gets a lot of views, but nothing compared to that first week. I dealt with that kind of stuff, and it was just like, whatever. Made a video about it later that summer, complaining that their manual reviews were not really manual reviews. And then suddenly, as soon as I made that video, like 5 of my videos got remonetized. So sometimes the squeaky wheel gets the grease. And I just recently saw that with 3 videos. Because what really set me off more recently was that they demonetized my veterans history video, then my history of feminism, and and like those two kind of juxtaposed to each other was like, what the heck is going on here? And these are by manual review. And me complaining on Twitter and everything brought a lot of views to like kind of counteract the suppression. So once again, squeaky wheel, right? And then recently those got remonetized because I was complaining about demonetization again. So it's a really capricious system that that seems to just kind of go back and forth as to however loud you're being. And, you know, I have all of these, like, you know, this has been manually reviewed by a human. And then, like, weeks later, then they suddenly decide, no, we're going to demonetize it anyways, and then say it's by manual review. Kings and Generals calls that sneak demonetization, and I've seen that a lot. Currently, I have 25 videos demonetized. So, as I said, it's a long freaking saga. I've been dealing with this for 4 years, and I've been on the platform for 6.
Yeah, so I can relate. I'm going to put on the screen now because apparently the audio wasn't there before, but it will. Okay, so you'll see on the screen now, these are all the videos that Cypher has had demonetized, and you heard some of his struggles. 24 of my videos, as you also see on the screen, have been demonetized, including the most popular video I've ever made, which is a video about anti-Semitism. And yeah, that's controversial content, so I guess I'm not too terribly surprised of why it's demonetized, especially considering that the comment section is pretty wretched. However, it has 3.5 million views, and that could be a lot of ad revenue for me, but I've never gotten any ad revenue for that. So, one in particular, there's a Supreme Court case called Windsor v. United States, for part of my Supreme Court Briefs series, and it's just about same-sex marriage. It's about as informational as you can get, but because I said same-sex marriage, it automatically was flagged. And the frustrating thing, I think, is that supposedly a human being went in there and manually reviewed it, and even after manual review, they're like, nope, this is too controversial, we can't monetize that, which to me makes me question whether or not they really do have human beings that check these things, because a human would have caught that. So, but this is before we kind of look at like more of ways to for solutions and kind of long-term impact. We haven't heard from potential history yet, so Johnny, if you want to go ahead and share your experience with this.
Yeah, definitely. So I feel like at times I'm kind of an outlier for the historical community for this, because a lot of stuff that I do is satire, and I know the satire tag specifically. There's a different Nerd City video where they talk about how I think it was I Hate Everything was talking about how I got around demonetization a lot with satire and stuff like that. But a lot of my stuff is really joke based, and the bot seems to understand, like, if it's very hard to get the idea across that this is a joke to it, but if you do and you do it right somehow, it will kind of give you a little more leniency. So right now, out of 66 videos, I have 14 demonetized at 21%, so not that bad. And then I have 4 that were copyrighted content that either it was worth it to me to have that song or whatever in it, so it didn't bother me, or it was something that, I thought it was the most random corner of nowhere song or something like that I thought I'd be safe with, that I ended up not being, but I wanted to keep it in, because you can, if you edit and re-upload around the copyrighted stuff, because YouTube actually tells you what the copyrighted piece is, unlike when they demonetize, how they don't tell you what's causing that. you can edit around it and stuff like that. So those 4 don't really bother me. But I kind of have 2 categories of demonetized stuff that is either I pretty much knew it was going to happen because we're talking about like violence or the stuff talked about like in my Banality of Evil video. I have Holocaust footage in it. In my Dresden video, I knew that was going to happen just from the topic and everything like that. And then the other ones like Fury, the Imbara video, and the East Africa video, they're songs that I wanted to use, or like the footage from Fury that I wanted to use that I knew it was going to happen and I was okay with it. So I kind of, there's parts that I understand about it that I'm kind of asking for it, and it's worth having the stuff in it just for it. But then there are a lot of other ones that very obviously I did it and got away with it in the past, but then for some reason couldn't this time. And I'm starting to see a trend as I get more subscribers and the channel kind of grows. I feel like as that happens to you, you sort of get a more scrutinous eye on your channel, or at least I've noticed that. Because there have been certain things I could get away with, be it how violent the historical footage was or what I was talking about, that I could in the past, that got reviewed in a way that was in my favor, that I'm just not anymore. And so that's one thing that I've been interested in trying to find out and track, to see if the size of your channel matters, that as you're lifted up as one of YouTube's, and I'm not huge by any means, but just as you have more eyes on you, YouTube sees that as, oh, we got to watch what he's putting out and what advertisers are on him, because it reflects more on us the bigger the channel is. And so that's been mostly my my relationship with it. The main thing that I did when I went full-time with it was I made sure I was in a position where if ad revenue just tanked and I got nothing, or I got my YouTube channel demonetized completely, that I wouldn't be completely screwed and kind of have the revenue and stuff, just in a way that I don't have to absolutely rely on it in case it goes bad, because there's people left and right just getting their channels completely demonetized for reasons that aren't explained to them and everything. So yeah, it's been frustrating, but I feel like it's not as bad as it could be, and I feel like in that I have some comedic stuff and some things like that that are satirical and stuff like that. I can kind of sidestep some things.
Okay, yeah. So thanks for sharing. I think definitely if you have a satirical spin, that's going to complicate matters. So yeah, that's a good perspective to have tonight, because I think of all of our channels, I think I would say that the Armchair Historian is probably the most straightforward. Just like, here are facts about, here's the story of this, and like, as far as not interjecting a lot of opinion, and I mean, I don't have a lot of opinion as well, but I do add my own style with like a lot of bad dad jokes and stuff like that. So but yeah, so Griffin, maybe if you want to expand as far as how you've adjusted to this demonetization.
Sure. Yeah, so one thing, I mean, the thing that most like the YouTube manager, if you've ever had one of those, I don't have one anymore, but or like that person, or like on Twitter, or YouTube likes to pretty much say, hey, unlist your video and see if the bot catches it first, and then you can try to make the changes. Well, I've even tried doing stuff like that, and that's not reliable either. I've even had experiences where I'll upload a video a week ahead of time, and as soon as I make it public, halfway through its release, and you can see the point where it gets demonetized. So I haven't been able to try to see if the bot wants to review it early. I haven't been able to really change anything in my content. Like you said, it tries to be more objective, so it's not like I can say, hey, maybe I'll stop being a little edgy in my videos. Like, there's very little I could do, but the one thing that I have noticed is it seems as though YouTube's updated the algorithm, and it's very dependent on the title of your video. People have been saying this for a little while, especially the LGBTQ creators have been saying, hey, look, as soon as I write the word lesbian or gay in the title, it's immediately flagged. And YouTube has come out, even the CEO of YouTube has come out and said, hey, we don't even look at the title. That's not even in the algorithm. So you're making that up. But the data is very, very clear on that. And Nerd City, I think that's his channel, very recently released a video, I think almost a couple hours ago, sometime today, going over just this. So the evidence is very clear. And speaking from personal experience, yeah, look, I just released a video today called The Battle of Moscow, animated mini documentary. Well, that was instantly demonetized. As soon as I switched the title to At the Gates of Moscow, animated mini documentary, and then I kind of passive-aggressively wrote in all caps, educational content at the end, without even needing a review, the bot switched its decision and made it monetized again. So what I'm really noticing is, at first, I guess they developed this algorithm and it was really looking for the content itself. And now it's kind of expanding to say, okay, we're going to start looking at certain words you're using, whether they're spoken verbally in the actual video itself or just in the title. One actual change I can see us having to make as a community is just being a little more careful about what we're naming the videos. As far as I see, the thumbnails, the bot isn't smart enough just yet. Maybe in a year that'll change, but the bot can't really read the thumbnails unless you have like gore or some kind of like explicit images shown. But if you write the word battle or war, it can't really notice. But in the title, it's going to read your text. And in some cases, it might even read your description. So you can't try to be too sly about it. I think what you ultimately are going to have, what we're going to have to start doing now is rebranding our videos and avoiding certain keywords. The video I'd referenced earlier even put out a document, an Excel sheet, where it went through and tested hundreds, if not thousands, of different words as it uploaded 5-second videos. With nothing, there's no content. It's just different titles. And it tried out tons of different titles of all different words. And then the bot could see which words the bot didn't like. So LGBTQ or lesbian, yeah, that gets instantly demonetized. War, in some cases, can be monetized. In some cases, doesn't get monetized. There's a whole list out there. So this is something that maybe it's been around for a little bit, but look, I had a video called Life in Nazi Germany with a giant picture of Hitler and a swastika in the thumbnail, and that was monetized, and that was like a year ago. So this seems to be a little recent that it's saying, okay, now we're really going to start looking at titles, descriptions, words. Maybe even we can see what words you're speaking in the beginning of the video, if we can tell. And if you're using any of these kinds of flagged words. Again, in that video, it references LGBTQ creators having to use code words. They have a document for their audience. They have to go to a Google Docs page to see what the code words mean, because if you say certain words, it's automatically flagged. So yeah, my recent strategy has been coming up with more clever names, At the Gates of Moscow, and why was Russia ineffective? Not why was the Soviet Union ineffective against the Blitzkrieg? You can't use Blitzkrieg, you can't use Soviet Union, you can't use Nazi, you can't use war, you can't use battle. So I'm just being a lot more careful. And recently, my last 2 videos just got remonetized after I switched their titles. So I'm gonna say, I don't know if this will if this is foolproof. I don't know just yet, but I think we all have to kind of start playing around with it and see how the algorithm's changing. But this might be promising. I don't know. We might be able to find some kind of way around this.
I can't get over how your video Life in Nazi Germany is monetized. That never had issues. It's like, it seems so arbitrary to me.
It never even was flagged at all. I didn't even have to request a review. It was instantly monetized, which also goes to what Johnny was saying, that when your channel's smaller, and my channel was smaller when I released that video, that was one of the videos that helped kind of blow me up. I never had demonetization issues, but as soon as I started getting a little bit bigger, and my views were going up, YouTube just started, it almost, like, I can almost feel when YouTube started noticing my channel, and now I feel I actually feel that I have to be a lot more careful. Before, I did not care at all. Swastika in the thumbnail, not Life in Nazi Germany, had an image of the Holocaust and absolutely nothing. And it was all objective. It wasn't like Holocaust denial or anything like that. But it still didn't really matter. But now recently, I think it's a combination of when you reach the size and just a combination of YouTube's new kind of policies that are coming out, like I mentioned before, about just looking at titles.
So that's the thing is that it's not that we can just experiment with this and find how to get around the algorithm. They're constantly changing that, and if it's just that, how big your channel is, I've been having this problem since I was less than 5,000 subscribers. This is something that everybody is facing, no matter what the size is. There's also all the people who can't be monetized yet because they haven't reached a particular size, or they haven't been reviewed by YouTube, and we all know how dumb that whole process is. But the thing with like making a list and figuring out what things will work and what don't is like there's still things that if you're talking about my next video is like what caused the Mexican-American War. I don't really see any way of getting around that name. But I also have uploaded a preview of it, and it was reviewed already and good to go. It was initially demonetized, but they reviewed it positively. But something that I had to do was take all of my references, which I normally include in the description, and start putting it in the pinned comment, because academia doesn't care about YouTube's rules and standards. They have a much higher standard of what is in terms of naming conventions, and if it says violence or war or any of those kinds of things that are easily flagged, then you have an entire list of bad words in this clump of text for that. So instead, I've been relegating it down into the pinned comment, and specifically a reply to the pinned comment, so that that system doesn't work. And yet my references are still there. It says in the description, see pinned comment for errors and references or something like that.
Quick response to what Griffin said about the thumbnails. I believe the thumbnails actually do matter, because I don't know if any of you guys watch Funhouse, but they do a series called YouTube Court, and there is this program on Google called Google Vision, if you want to look it up, and you can in there insert a picture. And the bot that I assume is the same or a similar bot to what is on YouTube, the Google bot, their premier thing, latest version of it, will take the photo and it will judge it based on how racy it is, if there's gore in it, assumptions of what things are. And what it does is it picks out just the bare basics of every single thing in the video, so they'll have man, helmet, gun, things like that, and it will try to decipher how, if this is family friendly or not. And I actually played around with it a bunch to see how kind of intelligent it was, and it's really strange to play with, because I tried to go as family friendly as possible. So I uploaded a thing of kittens, and it didn't care. It was there's very little chance of this being anything. But then I also uploaded a picture of some firing squads from the Eastern Front. And for that, it didn't pick up the context of what was happening. It looks like it picks up items and kind of how revealing somebody is, what kind of clothes they're wearing, because it picked out gun, helmet, soldier, and then from there, and from probably just reverse image searching it, it figured out, Eastern Front, Holocaust, Einsatzgruppe, and all that. But it gave the overall photo a fairly low rating for violence and stuff, because it can't pick up the sum of the parts. It just picks up the parts. And it's really interesting to see what it will define as racy sexual content, because if you show bare chest, even having it be male, it immediately goes to racy for that. Or if you have a woman wearing a skirt, to where you see even just from the knees down her legs, they label that as really racy for some reason. And So it's really fun to play with, and it kind of gives you an eye into what they're looking at. But then again, it's so just hit and miss, and that it can be really smart, and you'll be really impressed that it found out, like, oh, it figured out this picture is from this event. It has the intelligence to do that. But then also, it's so stupid, it sees, someone wearing shorts, and it goes sexual content. It both is really smart and can figure stuff out, but then it just overcorrects hard. And so
one
that's
thing
kinda
to
just
point
what I'm
out on
dealing
that, possibly the reason why it's able to be like, oh, that's Einstein's Griffin, is because it's doing some sort of reverse image search as well.
That's what it was, reverse image searching and everything. But it's so funny that it will reverse image search that, figure out that it's this thing, this really violent thing, understand that, but then be like, the image itself isn't that violent, when it's like an execution, and so I don't get what its line of thought is, because it just seems so random.
I think you're giving the robots too much credit.
Yeah, it could be.
But okay, I have a super chat here I probably shouldn't mention. So thanks, Tyler Rodriguez. He says, I feel you two would be more reasonable if they weren't clearly so pro Woodrow Wilson. And he also says if everything was less automated. And yeah, it goes back to our point that it is bots that are doing it. And Grant Hurst in the comments also, I noticed earlier, mentioned Grant Hurst is known as the causal historian on YouTube. He's had some issues with his videos as well. Oh gosh, casual historian. Yeah, and he's had issues with, in particular, his video about Holocaust denial. And I mean, he had to re-upload that thing so many times, and it was just a headache for him. And really unfortunate, because it's an important video that really just called out just how horrible these Holocaust deniers were. But yeah, it's these bots. They're the ones that are making the mistakes, and it's constantly a work in progress, it seems like. And I think maybe it has gotten a little bit better. But one thing I do want to kind of mention now is you guys talked about ways to adjust as far as keywords and what to put in your title and everything and thumbnail. But other things that we have done in terms of, like, if we know something is controversial and it's going to get demonetized, that, trying to get sponsors or reliance on Patreon. And I guess, like, and this is also for those of you who are just joining us, most people I think that watch our channels are aware of this. It was big on Reddit. Indy Nidell, he had a big video on Reddit in particular that drew a lot of attention to the struggles of history on YouTube being demonetized. But some people aren't aware of this and how it does have a huge impact and leads to this self-censorship in a way. But so what other ways have, we'll start with Griffin, like, have you adjusted? And I know, well, Griffin has the website that he launched. Is a big reason why was because of this demonetization. So what other ways have you adjusted to make up monetarily?
Yeah, so the website's been my biggest thing. You mentioned sponsors before, but one of the biggest problems I see, again, I don't even like to call it demonetization. I'd rather just call it video suppression. As Cypher was saying before, it's like, it was, I think both of you said, like, your fastest growing videos or some, like, of your best videos are the ones that get demonetized. And as soon as you notice that, the views just die. And sponsors do not want to put money into a video they know isn't going to be seen by a lot of people. And so while that can help, and I think if you're transparent with your sponsor and you work some agreement out, it can still be tough to, advertisers, they want to maximize views, and if your videos are going to get suppressed, they can just sponsor someone who's going to get millions of views who's safe. And so that's even really difficult. And so for me, I think in 2020, already right now, I've launched my website, the Armchair Historian. And in 2020, I'm really going to make a push to just investing a lot into this site and to the infrastructure, and basically just creating a place where those YouTubers who want to still create cover the history that is controversial but still needs to be covered and talked about, can just have some kind of home that we can monetize in some kind of way through crowdfunding, essentially. Yeah, and that's going to be my main focus. I think another thing I might try in 2020, should this issue continue, is to just crowdfund larger projects. I know that the Great War Channel recently did a GoFundMe for a Battle of Berlin documentary, and they've raised quite a lot of money doing it. And the reason explicitly they say is this video isn't suitable for YouTube. This isn't even going to be on YouTube. And a lot of people were upset about that. And they're like, why isn't this going to be free? It's not going to be on YouTube. You guys are selling out. But I really kind of like sympathize and empathize with them because, yeah, YouTube does not even want that kind of content on there. You know it's going to be demonetized. It can be like Indian Idol and his World War II channel. Some of the videos are age restricted, so you can't even watch them unless you're signing into your Google account and you're 18 or older. It's like, we were taught about the Holocaust in sixth grade. It's like, how can you not talk to adults about and it's not even the Holocaust, you know? So a lot of other bigger YouTubers are either looking to crowdfunding. I know a group of other educational channels founded a site called Nebula, where they're doing essentially what I'm doing, but with just general education because everyone's being affected. So it looks like a lot of the major solutions are adapt the best you can on YouTube, whether that be switching your content overall or just switching out thumbnails and keywords. Cypher said, though, sometimes it's going to be hard to do that when, you know, it's the Spanish-American War. What else are you supposed to call it? The second alternative would be to go to crowdfunding, even something like Patreon or something more official to launch a documentary. And then the third option would be these kind of secondary websites that are popping up, whether that be the Armchair Historian, Nebula, or any other kind of website. But yeah, I'm going to be focusing more on developing my website, trying my best to keep my content free on YouTube, the majority of my content. I don't want to completely put everything behind a paywall. I don't want to do that. But if it gets worse, YouTube's pretty much forcing us, it's pushing us that direction. So, you know, it's hard to say, but yeah, there's a lot of different options.
Something I gotta point out on some of that. So like the Nebula thing. So like the Nebula thing, for instance, is exclusive to standard.tv, or like crowdfunding is something that only people who already have a significant following can do. So in terms of like, I mean, I'm not a small creator anymore. I don't think I could call myself a small creator, but like. Even there, some of that stuff, I'm pretty sure I couldn't go out and create a GoFundMe on something like that, even at my size. Because and the problem is if demonetization is suppression, which, yeah, I think it is, ultimately people cannot grow anymore. And so it's really only the most viral channels that can succeed rather than the slow burn of you know, a education. Like my content is very, you know, analytical, and that tends to rub people the wrong way a lot. And so it's a very slow burn for me to grow. And I just couldn't imagine doing this if I didn't have 6 years of being on this platform already. You know, so it's also a significant problem for people who cannot find these alternatives.
All right, we got a couple,
and naturally, I think that's actually a really good thing for your website, the armchairhistorian.com, because one, you're not imposing artificial barriers on that, you know, and two, it doesn't have to be, you know, like you do this on this channel and then never be on YouTube again. You know, it's not exclusive content, and yet it's also open to everyone, to everyone who's creating. You know?
Okay, we got a couple super chats here. First of all, Grant Scarborough has asked about Storyfire. Have you guys heard? Has anyone heard of Storyfire? Yeah. No? Okay. Well, we'll check that out. Thanks for bringing it to our attention, Grant. Also, one of my Patreon supporters who's on the chat, so thanks, Matt. Shout out to Matt. has said, "It is hard to relate to the effects of demonetization when we are ignorant to the effort involved. Can someone speak to the payout in relation to effort and what the real cost of demonetization is?" I'll start things off because there's something I forgot to mention that echoes what Griffin was saying, and that is it only takes one word to make a video be demonetized and limited views to people and suppressed. I like that you guys use that word suppressed. My video about the worst senators in U.S. history, I did analyze why that got demonetized after manual review, and I determined it was the fact that I mentioned rape, the word rape, and me just saying that in this video is automatically making this live stream demonetized, probably even after manual review. So there's probably a few other things too, but me just saying that word. And so that video, my worst senators video, it's still sitting like at 20-some thousand views when a video that's just like that, where it's my worst governor's video or best vice presidents or best presidents, those all got hundreds of thousands of views. And so, well, most of them did. And so that's just another example of kind of the effects that viewers don't really see. We haven't heard from Johnny in a while. You want to start us off with what effects you've seen, like as far as suppression?
I mean, not to get too far into monetarily or anything, but the thing is, it really depends on where you are in your YouTube career, because a video being demonetized financially impacted me a whole lot more when I didn't have a lot of videos out compared to what I do have a lot now. And so eventually you get to a point where you're a little bit more shielded from being hurt by a demonetized video, just because your backlog continuing to get videos and your backlog of things that are monetized and safe getting videos, that continues to happen and help each month. Like Griffin said, the biggest thing that happens, though, is it not being recommended as much and it not appearing in people's sub boxes. I get tweets all the time of people saying, "I didn't know you released this video, they didn't put it in my subscription feed." I have been, and I'm not really sure why. I'm wondering if it's something to do with being more on the entertainment and kind of parody side of things, like I said before. But a lot of times demonetization doesn't affect my views as much. For me personally, what it'll do is the first week maybe slow them down a bit, but oftentimes it's kind of, it'll bounce back after a week or so, and I won't really have trouble getting to the 100,000 or whatever mark for sponsors. I don't know why I've been spared that as much, and I'm really curious.
I think I can take a guess, actually. Your videos I often see on social media. People share it a lot, and while the algorithm tends to have a suppression effect once demonetization happens, it seems like social media can counteract that. I've had when I was talking about like the veterans video where it got demonetized and it was performing horribly, and then I complained very loudly about it, and it was like my most popular tweet at the time, and suddenly it started getting views again, and you could see very clearly that it correlated with social media outburst, basically. So perhaps
really
it's that.
Yeah. The other thing that I've done that has kind of helped me, and I would recommend to anybody, is to chain together your tags for each video. So if you have a series or something like that, like for meme tanks, for example, I always try to have at least a fourth to a third of all the tags in every meme tanks video be the same, so that they're really closely linked. And when you're looking at recommendations and things like that, it makes it more likely for them to be put next to each other. And then I just have broad ones that I try to put in every single video and have them be the exact same. So anything to do with World War II and the Eastern Front, I have 5 or 6 tags that I make sure are in every single one that is remotely involved with that part of the war, or has a tank in that part of the war, or something like that. So that way, hopefully they're being linked together a bit better. And so that's one thing I've tried. The thing that's most frustrating to me about all of it is just how random it can be, in that you can have 2 videos. Like, for me, it's happened a few times with a part 1 and a part 2 to a video. Like my German tank meme video, I had to split into 2 parts. Part 1 didn't get monetized, but part 2 was fine. And they're basically, I mean, the stuff within it is different. I'm talking about different tanks and stuff, but the approach, the tone, the word usage in general, you know, the thumbnails are almost identical. You know, all that stuff's very similar. And I couldn't, you know, with a lot of videos that get demonetized, I can point to something and be like, that's probably it, you know, for about half of them that have been demonetized. But other ones are just complete, you know, I have no idea what caused this, and did it just come down to the person who manually reviewed it that day has a different worldview than somebody else, or they read the guidelines slightly differently, or something like that, to where if my luck of the draw was somebody else to manually review it, would their interpretation have been, you know, oh no, this one's fine. It just all seems so random, and even though there are guidelines and stuff like that, even when following the guidelines as close as you can, there's still something. You know, and that's what's been most frustrating for me.
Yeah, I want to, and the way you're talking, it seems like it is a human that's actually looking at your videos, which is that's a step up, I think. But still, I wanted to another super chat. Chris Nemec said, "Be sure to scroll up to the beginning and read about the stuff I wrote there about the demonetizing of Townsend's video." And we were talking off air about this. Of all the channels to be demonetized, it seems to be one of the most family-friendly history channels around. And he's going through the same thing. I'm not sure if it's just one person. I think it's actually a team. But for those familiar with the Townsend's channel, they're going through this as well. But
sounded good, guys. Let me know if it does. But part of that also seemed, because something that we really need to target with this whole thing, well, that we're being targeted with all this, is that it appears that history is especially just a blatant controversial thing. A couple years ago, when I made a video about, like, I did some of the experiments that Nerd City did, where they were literally just like, I was uploading a video that was just like ocean waves that I had recorded at the beach, and I was just putting random tags on it and seeing what got demonetized and what didn't. And one of the most consistent things was my base tag, which was just history. That's like the first tag in everything. And like literally history was what was being flagged for demonetization. Now, it also seems to have a channel preference that, like, you know, if you have a certain amount of demonetized videos already, that it chooses to be a little more liberal in terms of demonetizing you. But it also tends to make it so that, like, certain words can become demonetizable that are off of all those different lists, and that is especially bad for history.
Okay, so I before I ask a big, more philosophical question, Griffin, did you have anything that you wanted to add before we dive into that, or?
Yeah, just one small thing to just going off what Cypher said. What I've, like, an anonymous YouTuber, he said he didn't want to be named, who's much larger, was giving me some tips about demonetization, and he even said the algorithm will see your history of how many times you've been demonetized, and based off of that, will decide to go ahead and flag you more or less. And the more you put in manual reviews and a person comes in and then says, no, it should be demonetized, you're wrong, stop putting in these manual reviews. The more that happens, the more you're putting in manual reviews, the bot thinks that you're purposefully trying to get through, and you are creating bad content, and people are constantly, the YouTube workers are constantly saying, you know, yes, this should be demonetized. Yeah, it should be demonetized. And so the bot is going to go, okay, yeah, this guy is dangerous. He's publishing a lot of this types of content, and we should just start shutting down more of his videos. So the like really bad part of this is that once you're caught in this like downward spiral, and by the way, none of this is transparent. They don't tell you this.
Downward spiral.
If you keep requesting manual reviews, which is naturally what you would do, you would say, hey, look, this isn't bad, this isn't bad, this isn't bad, this isn't. If you keep doing that, it's just going to keep getting worse and worse for you. And so it's quite counterintuitive that way, and it can be really like damaging to channels that are blanket demonetized. Or in the case that Cypher said, like large groups of videos are getting demonetized, and if you put in the reviews, that can even make it worse. And that just seems like, you know, the whole situation is just so complicated. And yeah, I just want to mention that the algorithm can keep a history of videos that's demonetized and use that to go forward. Yeah.
Okay.
Seems to compound itself because history videos are already prone to demonetization, and unfortunately, this doesn't exactly apply to small channels because they're just getting started. But once you start to have a history of demonetized videos, then I have to wonder, because I mean, the whole thing is about this whole black box thing, right? That that it is trying to come up with ways of programming itself. And does that mean that if like I'm getting mass demonetized, does that mean that it's getting other videos from other YouTubers getting mass demonetized simply for being history content? Like, is this, you know, channel specific, or is it genre specific?
Yeah, that's a good point. It could very well be genre specific, which is just insane to think about. Like, of all the genres to attack, you know, or to, you know, suppress, that's the one. But I have another.
It's educational content.
Well, yeah, we could talk about EduCon as well here a little later. But a super chat, blue thumbnail asked, should YouTubers unionize? Well, they've tried. Hank Green and John Green and a few others, they had a union for a while. It was YouTubers.
And that was, they specifically said that it wasn't a union, that was a guild.
A guild.
But there is currently a YouTubers union. You know, there is currently a YouTubers union from the Slingshot channel guy. I don't remember his actual name. And he has,
in Germany.
And they're working with like an actual like major German union. And it's like literally called the YouTubers Union. But the problem is, we're not exactly in this. We can't use the same laws against YouTube that like a labor union can. So either we have to become such a force as a union to enforce labor contracts against YouTube that we can actually implement, that we can lobby the federal government for those kinds of protections. Or we have to come up with new ways of like having strikes and stuff like that. And we've talked a little bit about that, yes.
Yeah, I think the community is too large and diverse for that. But I do want to ask this big philosophical question. I've been itching to ask all three of you, so whoever wants to answer it first, I might start with my thoughts. But so why is it important that we don't sugarcoat harsh things about our past? So, you know, I used to teach 7th grade American history when I started out, and I did teach about heavy topics like occasionally genocide, and war, violence, and I did get a little bit of pushback from parents at my old school from this, like there's certain things maybe we shouldn't be throwing at them and all this. I can understand that perspective perhaps for 6th, 7th, 8th graders. However, a lot of those seventh graders were going home and watching The Walking Dead, and this was perfectly acceptable. So I think
Technically not allowed on the platform. Um, technically, seventh graders are not allowed on the are not supposed to be what we are throwing to, because technically, to have an account, you're supposed to have be 14 or older, so that precludes seventh graders by default. So if YouTube was enforcing their own policies, then that would not be a concern. I am not saying that they are enforcing their own policies, but if they were, the concern about, you know, seventh graders being traumatized wouldn't actually be a concern. It should be high schoolers that they would be concerned about.
Of the accounts that are on YouTube, they say that they're older than they actually are to get on YouTube. Which, but yeah. So back to the original question: why is it important that we don't sugarcoat harsh things about our past, things that, you know, make you feel uncomfortable? Whoever wants to jump in first, go ahead.
I would say that the reason it's good at a young age and everything is because a lot of the people who fall into really kind of bad myths, Holocaust denial, sympathy to aggressors, things like that. I think all of that is a result of when they are older being exposed to these ideas and never being taught the actual well-sourced facts and things like that when they were younger. So, you know, if you have somebody who's, 17, and then the first time they're really exposed to the Holocaust or to, the slave trade or things like that, and it's through this lens of, well, actually it wasn't that bad, or actually this is fake, or, something like that, of people trying to, I'm smarter than, the narrative. I actually think for myself. I don't just believe what I'm telling, blah, blah, blah. If that's their first exposure to it, I think they're more likely to go along with it and believe, that poorly sourced, just incorrect stuff that leads to denying historical facts about very important events. Whereas if you're younger and you have that discussion with them and say, no, this happened, I'm going to show you the sources why, and all of that. Then when they're older and if they're exposed to those kind of things, they have something to fire back with, and they have the knowledge of like, no, that's actually not correct. I was taught this when I was younger and everything. For me, that would be the biggest reason, just because you see a lot of people who start believing those narratives and stuff like that. It's kind of in their older teenage years, and they probably just didn't get the education to the extent that they needed to know and to have the facts to shoot back on, like, no, that's actually, the Holocaust happened. These are the facts that I know. And if they're never taught, then, they're probably more susceptible to denialism and stuff like that.
Okay, yeah, sorry, we're skipping super chat questions we must be missing. So you might, if you want to retype it again, History Explained. And then Cupcake, thanks for the super chat.
It is 30 seconds behind, remember, so we are having trouble with it. But did Cupcake have something? Oh, well, thanks. So, in the other thing to think about in terms of your question, Matt, like, it's not so much about, because, for instance, I'm not really trying to target like high schoolers, right? My content, I'm more focused on like undergrads, right? If I were to have a specific like or continued learning, right? And there should be a space on YouTube for that, for beyond the textbook. And part of the problem is they present themselves as being education helpful. But like, for instance, I'm going to the Western Historical Association in 3 weeks, 4 weeks, and I'm giving a presentation there. Like, I created a panel, and I don't know. I was thinking about putting a video on YouTube from that chat, from that paper that I'm presenting. And mind you, this is the Western Historical Association. This is basically the biggest thing in my field. The only thing higher is the American Historical Association. Like, it's literally just one step down from that. And not only do I have a panel, but it's a sponsored panel. Like the Nevada Mining Association is sponsoring it. Although hilariously, I'm really going after mining, so I don't know what. I actually know the lady who sponsored it. Local history is a small thing, but anyways, the title of it is Renegade Indians, a strain of violence in southern Nevada and its parallels. Like, this is approved by the WHA. This is something that is being sponsored by a corporation, even though it totally goes against their interests. And then there's and then there's just the fact that this is a conference. This is an academic conference. Like, this is about as legitimate as you can get. And yet, I don't know if I could do it, because literally the last time I did this, it got demonetized. I have a video called "The Problem with Las Vegas Conspiracy Theories." Not only is this something that is is highly academic in nature, it was something that was presented at an academic conference. So there's only 2 steps above that in terms of publishing. There's articles and books. Basically, the standard thing is that you go and do a bunch of panels, then you get all that feedback from the panel, then you go to an article which it predates the book, and then you put out a book, and that's the whole route to tenure. So this is something that should be accepted on a fundamental level, that if they're going to present themselves as an education platform, that these things should be allowed and not suppressed.
One thing I'd like to mention on that, or go ahead and finish that. What were you about to say?
To cut it short, basically, they cannot call themselves an education platform and then deny the presentations that are being presented by, like, legitimately accepted academic papers. Like just one for one.
Yeah, and to go, like, I think everyone here would agree with that. And I think, I don't even know if the debate is over, like, the legitimacy of the content, and if it's like, if other advertisers are approving it, then it must be safe for YouTube and that kind of thing. And I think it might even be a case also of just YouTube saying, hey, these brands don't want to be, certain brands, like the videos can be safe and we think people should be able to see them, but certain brands don't want to be associated with war or battle. You don't want to think of wars, Holocaust, atrocities, or anything when you think of, like, Coca-Cola. And when you keep putting brands right next to that type of content, they think that is too risky. I'm not saying if that is correct or if that's incorrect, but I think one of the philosophies they have is my brand has to be put next to the most family-friendly content possible. So when people think of my brand, they think of smiling faces and happy family content, and never anything about death or just only joy and that kind of. So it might even be on a deeper level, just marketing. I think these days advertisers, especially on YouTube, are quite scared to advertise because of these larger YouTube. And I think we're feeling like this trickle down effect from larger YouTubers like PewDiePie and Logan Paul, who have done, like, they've messed up just like verbally and through their actions in their videos. And advertisers see this and they think PewDiePie, the largest channel on here, is like using words that we don't approve of, and YouTube can't even, if YouTube can't even control its largest creator, imagine what all the smaller creators are doing. Okay, I'm not even going to be if you even mention the word war, I don't want my brand, I just want smiling faces, no bad words, no bad, like, content that look these other companies might want to sponsor it. The mining company might want to sponsor it. There might be conferences held, but I don't want Coca-Cola next to that kind of content. I think it.
But with that, they need to make if they are going to if YouTube is going to abide by those kinds of restrictions, then they need to stop claiming that they are for instance, Susan Wojcicki constantly is talking about how they support educational content, that they they hold educons all over the place, that it's the #1 source of learning on the internet. And if they're going to claim those kinds of things, then they have to conform to what is accepted in the field. And if like something like literally a conference paper that I just add a bunch of images to, or actually some of that was like literally the images that I used for slides at the conference, gets demonetized, and I get it. Actually, I'm not really that concerned about the video itself. It literally has conspiracy theory in the frickin' title, and screw conspiracy theorists. But they have to be able to differentiate between anti-conspiracist and actual conspiracists, and by choosing not to, they are demeaning their claims of being educators.
Right.
So that's something we really need to pound on this, that they constantly use our channels as like, look, there's educational content, and at the same time they're screwing us.
All right, we finally got that super chat question, so I should bring that up. Sorry about that, History Explained, but it's a good question. History Explained, I'm assuming, has his own history channel, or her, or whatever pronoun. What do you guys think about ancient and medieval history demonetization? Have you guys ever experienced demonetization on pre-20th century videos? I know I don't have very many videos that are pre-20th. I do have 19th and a little bit of 18th century, but and yeah, I don't think Johnny does. Yeah, can we?
Yeah. So yeah, I've never actually. I mean, I've only been demonetized recently, and I haven't been doing. I mean, like most people, just my audience at least seems to like my 20th century videos more. But I think that's a really good point he raises, because again, my production, it takes over a month to produce a video, and so seeing demonetization, I can't just steer away all the videos we have planned. We plan these videos months in advance, so I can't completely change. But I'm already scrapping a couple of the video ideas that weren't put in production yet, in place for like the Battle of Grunwald. Still a battle, but at least we're stepping several hundred years back. Even covering Marathon, I'm trying to bring it back as far as I can to just test, okay, medieval and ancient history, how do things work with that? And then we can touch some 18th century, 19th century history, and almost use that as just a way to see if this is a century-specific kind of movement they have to demonetizing that kind of content, or if it's just wars and battles in general. I'm kind of convinced that they do have a bias against World War II and more recent events, especially because it's easier to find photographs and videos of these kinds of things. Whereas, like,
if you use photographs.
Well, exactly. Yeah, I don't know, but I don't know. It just seems like the more recent history. I think it's just because I think people also think of the Holocaust when they think of World War II, and when they think of Vietnam, they think of war crimes and an unpopular war. But if you think of like the Greco-Persian Wars, it doesn't have that kind of like reaction, and people aren't alive today who have fought in a war against Persia, right?
Yeah, it's not as real.
Yeah. And I think that is a layer to it. That's a component. I think also titling the videos is a component. I think showing what you're showing, if you're cursing and if you're showing people getting stabbed or shot or anything like that. I think there's a lot of factors. But to go back to the original question, yeah, I think ancient medieval, you might have a better shot with it, just because it's not. If you write the word Grunwald, they probably won't flag that word. But D-Day, since it's just so popular, a lot of these battles are so popular, they might even just start flagging that word alone. And so you might be able to go back so far that you could, it's just not popular enough for the bot to know to demonetize. The problem with that, of course, is if it's not popular enough, and you don't have a massive audience of millions of people, you can say, hey, we're shifting the content. You're watching my videos just because I'm covering it. And so I could post anything and you guys are going to watch. I don't think either four of us are like at the stage fully where we have millions of dedicated fans who are going to be able to switch with us. So it makes it more difficult to cover ancient history, let's say, unless you're talking about the most mainstream parts of it. But yeah, I guess, yeah, that's the situation. Medieval and ancient seems a little more safe, but I don't know.
Well, I'd also say, because oftentimes I end up going way back. I don't really. I'm a modernist as a historian myself. I study the American West, so I'm like 19th century as heck. But it does seem to be that as long as you don't relate it to the present. I have a lot of stuff that, like, I remember I did a video that was when does history begin, basically. I don't remember what the title is, but but that one got flagged and was manually reviewed negatively for a little bit, and that was one of those ones that just switched randomly. I honestly have no way of knowing that kind of stuff, but it was like, completely focused on basically BC, like completely. There's like, I do mention I can't remember, a Japanese author who said this is the end of history in like 1992. I do talk a little bit about that. And I think that's what got it demonetized, was literally talking about somebody.
That's
like, it's insane. Like like talking about a scholar, and the end of the Soviet Union being like the end of history is like, is something that's demonetizable as compared to, all this other stuff.
Yeah, I literally, every one of my videos, I make it relevant. I bring it to the present. And so that's how I teach.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, this is why this matters today, because that draws people in. So that is frustrating. I'm sorry, I'm laughing because I just saw a comment. This is the most epic crossover since Endgame. But yeah, so if you just are now joining us, we've been talking about how history videos tend to be suppressed and demonetized on YouTube. I have the Cynical Historian, Armchair Historian, and Potential History here. Make sure you check out all their channels. Make sure you support them. I said I would go an hour, and we're an hour 20 minutes, so I probably should start to wrap this up. And I guess if we could start to think about our most important points as far as moving forward. I know we've privately talked about ways that we can maybe kind of start a movement against this to change. I did read a comment earlier that really kind of struck a chord with me, is that, ultimately YouTube is beholden to their advertisers, and so they're just like any other company. They're trying to make a profit, and so I think that might be. I'm pretty sure YouTube is well aware at this point of the situation, because it's not just the history genre. Other genres deal with this. So maybe if there's a way to get awareness to advertisers, I think YouTube as a whole, and it might be PewDiePie and a few other the big name YouTubers that have given it a bad name, the platform a bad name, but changing kind of the perception of YouTube to those who aren't normally engaged with YouTube. Because I watch YouTube more than anything else. I don't even watch Netflix a whole lot anymore. I don't watch regular TV or cable TV. But we forget that if you're in that world, a lot of people are not in this world, and they have incredible misconceptions of YouTube because of a handful of creators, when, for crying out loud, there are millions of creators. So yeah, final thoughts. Whoever wants to jump in first.
two things not kind of related. One, I think that the message that I want to get out there is this isn't just about money. A lot of people look at this and see, a bunch of YouTubers crying about money when they have, sponsors and Patreon pages and stuff like that. That's kind of the secondary issue. The main issue is not feeling like you can say whatever you want or make a video on whatever you want. When I started this, and I still try to do this as much as I can, I just wanted to make videos on stuff that was interesting to me, and I wanted to make them and say the things that, if I were to come across this, would I be entertained by it? And that was kind of my main driving force. And the biggest problem with all of this is that it's hurting people's ability to do that and to have it get out and be seen by the people who want to see it. I said before, I haven't been too hurt by the suppression of the views and stuff like that, but a lot of people have, and I'll still see it somewhat, even to a lesser extent than some. And the biggest problem is that, we want people to be able to see what we make. We want to have the freedom to be able to make whatever we want. And, once you get a following, it's shown that, people want to see it too. And so the biggest problem with it and the biggest downside is that it's just not allowing people to see what they want to see and not allowing people to make what they want to make. And I think that's the biggest kind of downside to it. And I wish people would kind of look at it more in that way. It's not a lot of people. I don't want to make a broad statement and be like, nobody's sympathetic because they just think it's about money. But I do see that aspect of it a lot, that it's just people complaining about that. And I just want to make the point that that's not really it. That's not my main gripe. But then also, not to be too sympathetic to YouTube, but I do think they are kind of in a tough spot. They're definitely making it worse with things like not telling people, in a black and white, just matter-of-fact way, you can and can't do this. Kind of having to play the guessing game is annoying. But a lot of brands and people who, run ads on the site and generate the revenue, they will take any opportunity that they can to leave and act like they're outraged to negotiate a better price. The big adpocalypse things and stuff, when all the brands said like, well, we don't want to be associated with this, for companies, as long as it doesn't affect their bottom line, they tend to not care, and a lot of it's kind of crocodile tears or crocodile outrage for things. And I think a lot of these adpocalypse scenarios have been brands seeing a really excellent opportunity to pull out and renegotiate with them having the upper hand. And so, is YouTube doing its best? I don't think so. But also, they have their hands tied in quite a few different ways as to, what things they can monetize, demonetize, and things like that. Don't take this as me, saying it's not their fault or anything like that. Like I said, they're definitely screwing it up, and they're not doing as good as they could do. But the whole reason that this issue exists isn't because they want it to. It's because companies are really taking advantage of every situation they have to save money on ads and stuff. So I do kind of feel like YouTube isn't the number one enemy, because when you trace it all the way back, it's not 100% their fault. But if they wanted to win some good faith, they would get down to the trenches too and be like, all right, this is how we're being screwed. This is what we can tell you. So, try to obey by this. We're fighting for it to get them to loosen things and stuff like that. And instead, they're just kind of like, yeah, the brands are going to leave unless you do this. But I'm not really going to tell you what this is. So good luck. But we've got it taken care of on our side for the most part. And that's frustrating.
Yeah, I think I would say that the reputation of the history community is always in question too. And also to kind of defend YouTube, because there is a lot of bad history on YouTube. There's not a lot of stuff that's academically based and based on good historical research, and so that might be part of it too. I can definitely see. I mean, I just feel like a lot of
on that, somebody just commented that YouTube is active. To quote the comment, where it's already passed. I don't know where it was. Basically, YouTube is to somewhere close to the quote, is actively targeting advertisers who are willing to put their ads on racy content, because they just put out a video about like ad revenue on the yellow icon. This was like a week ago. One, I don't think that's. They can make as many claims as they want. For instance, they claim that they support educational content, and yet they violate that constantly. But two, if they are dealing with this from just the standpoint of trying to make sure that an adpocalypse doesn't happen, a lot of these advertisers who might pull out for that, as Johnny was saying, that it might pull out just basically to get a better price later down the road. The thing with that is they can easily push back, very easily, especially when it comes to history content. If they're willing to just, when an advertiser decides to pull out on some sort of racy content, they just go, well, is that because you dislike this particular thing, or is it because you dislike education? That's really easy to push back, and that's why, like, because a lot of people in the chat are saying that they just want to be cable television. Well, cable television has this down pat. Basically, everything that we're dealing with in terms of demonetized content would be perfectly suitable for
The History Channel.
television.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the History Channel is like full of really bad content. Like, basically, look at Ancient Aliens, where it's basically, I don't like brown people, so therefore it must be because aliens did that they could do big monoliths. That would instantly get demonetized here, unless you happen to attach the name History Channel, because History Channel is an advertiser. So it's not just this they're trying to appease the advertisers. They're not just going a step beyond. They're going many steps beyond what is required. And then contradicting themselves when it comes to saying that they are educationally oriented. So if they are saying something along those lines, and so for instance, a good way of contradicting this whole thing, movie reviews that I do get demonetized all the time, and yet sometimes they will continue to advertise the movie itself that I'm reviewing on that video. So if they're willing to advertise the movie that I'm reviewing, then there is absolutely no reason, according to their own bylaws, that it should be demonetized. And ultimately, this hurts YouTube. This is something that, if they demonetize something, it's not just that it's suppressing our video. It's not just that it's that we're not getting any revenue. YouTube is getting no revenue from it, because they take a 40% cut, I believe. So ultimately, all of these things play against their own interests.
Well, especially since I think I want to add that, because I'm seeing this comment from this one person in particular on here. They're kind of defending, well, you can post whatever you want. Like, there's no one stopping you from posting whatever you want. Okay, how YouTube works is why I said at the very beginning, it's a love-hate relationship. We love it because we wouldn't even have an audience if it weren't for YouTube. But it's completely reliant on algorithms. We are at the mercy. The algorithm gods, as I call them. And so when they are not suggesting these videos, that is what kills channels. That when you have a video that clearly should be doing the same as another video that's in the same exact series, we have a lot of, we can compare apples and apples here. It's not apples and oranges. Then you notice it's a pattern. It's hurting. That's what that theme of suppression, which I probably should rename this video instead of talking about demonetization. We haven't heard from you in a while, Griffin. What do you think about all this?
You know what? I was going to mention that another thing, I don't know, I think this is a much bigger problem during the whole adpocalypse years ago. But another thing, too, that I think is at the root of this, and I'm not saying that YouTube's doing a good job, but there's just so much content and there's so many advertisers that it's hard to, I mean, they're coming up with ways that are basically saying, hey, advertisers, do you want any content that talks about war? Do you want to advertise on that kind of content? And like, they're kind of letting the advertisers say, yeah, no, and pick and choose what they want to advertise on. And of course, advertisers are always going to flock towards the safest content possible, and nothing, not even educational content that mentions wars or battles or anything like that. Because I know that there are history channels out there, and usually not as popular, that don't talk about war, and they don't face these issues as much. But as soon as you get into military history or anything in relation to military history, I think it's just one of those tags that advertisers see, and they just want to turn off the switch and flock towards the other types of content. If YouTube, I'm sure YouTube wants to promote educational content, and it is in their best interest, but they don't know, there's so much content that they don't know who's educational and who to trust and who's safe. And at that point, they just step back, because it only takes one channel to, one channel that says it's educational content, but they're secretly throwing in little neo-Nazi, like dog whistles in there. And then all of a sudden, an advertiser says, oh, YouTube is allowing Nazi propaganda channels to be advertised and promoted on their platform. And this is the face of YouTube now. This is the educational content they're promoting. And all of a sudden, all the advertisers want to leave because they don't want to be associated with that. It's all about marketing, I think. And again, I'm not saying YouTube's doing like a good job with this, but it's certainly very difficult. It's not black and white. And the most important thing is just trying to find that balance of where are the educational channels, are they creating content that is suitable for the advertisers, and just kind of sorting through that and better categorizing things, which is also why they're just trying to improve that algorithm to better differentiate between all these different types of content. Because there's so much, even like Mr. Beat was mentioning, there's so much bad history too, and you don't know if a Holocaust video is going to be, like, you don't know what's going to be in it, and you can't review all of those videos. So it's difficult. Again, I'm not saying that YouTube's doing a good job with it, or that, it's okay that YouTube can't sort it out because there's just too much work. And, I don't expect them to fix it. It's like, yes, we do expect them to fix it. Google and YouTube are the largest websites in the entire platform. They should be able to do this by now. If they can develop the most intelligent algorithm, they should be able to differentiate between educational content and safe content. And I just don't think they've invested into doing that, and that's the real problem. Yeah.
Well, it's that LGBT creators were speaking out about this with the whole Vox guy, and I'm not saying that one side is good or the other, but if you're going to mass demonetize anybody who's using the term LGBT, and then you literally turn the symbol of YouTube into the symbol of LGBT, it's the same thing as them freaking saying that, like, it's that YouTube supports educational content, but will demonetize you if you talk about anything that isn't happy-go-lucky.
Yeah, the hypocrisy of it, I think, is the biggest problem. Not just the fact that it's happening, but the fact that that's also why they're being sued by a group of LGBTQ creators. It's like, you guys are using us on your on your Twitter page, you're posting pictures of us, but we can't get any of our videos monetized. So it's almost like you're using us just to brand yourself as LGBTQ friendly and education friendly, but you're secretly just trying to appease the advertisers, or you just don't even care about investing the actual time into differentiating the type of content.
And in terms of it, like, a lot of people will argue, that YouTube can do what they want with whatever's on their platform. but there is a significant difference between like Twitter, where they can legally publish anything on their platform whatsoever as if it is on their platform, as opposed to YouTube. And the difference being is YouTube does not own the means of production. Our means of production is like Premiere Pro or whatever video editing suite you're doing. All of these things, they own the means of publication. And so that puts them in the same situation as a newspaper. And there are very definite legal implications for suppression of content along those lines. And unfortunately, it takes suing them. And I think that those LGBT creators are potentially, opening the door to this kind of stuff. Because when they publicize our content as being exemplary of the platform, then they are also in putting a requirement of I don't know the word for it. Like taking on the requirement of monetizing these things. So by doing, it's not just hypocrisy; it's legal hypocrisy.
Well, I don't know, and if I'm wrong, I hope I am. But I've never really had a lot of faith in the lawsuits, just because there've been a few with groups that I agree with and don't agree with that have attempted it, and they tend to not go anywhere. And YouTube is really able to, even though they are kind of a monopoly, and they are doing things that are kind of shifty morals wise. I don't know if you can really. Is there any grounds to do anything to them legally, because they're a private.
It's because they are because they are publishing our content through other means. So like the LGBT folks who during Pride Month they publicize these creators and use their faces. For instance, during EduCon, they publicized both Matt and I's faces because we were attending, as like, look what we're doing. We're supporting the community, blah, blah, blah. By doing so, they are incurring our requirements for that publication. And if our requirements happen to include monetization, then if they choose to demonetize, then they have broken copyright.
Yeah, we should probably explain what EduCon is. Like, for those who don't know, it's basically a conference that YouTube has held the last couple of years for educational YouTubers. And Cypher and I have been lucky to attend. And unfortunately, there were not a lot of history YouTubers specifically there the last couple of years, but I think they do things like this because they realize that, yeah, there's a lot of educational content that doesn't get the respect. It's often the vloggers and the makeup tutorials and God knows what else that gets all the attention. So, but yeah, it does feel like token. It feels like lip service sometimes. But we do need to wrap this up here in a little bit. I am still going to unbox my silver play button, which kind of, I think my final thoughts on all of this is that, YouTube is letting us have a voice right now at this very moment, and 150 people are watching it live. And so, again, it's a double-edged sword, and we shouldn't, I know we have our frustrations, but we obviously we can see the good of YouTube as well as the bad. But I think already we've seen more success by doing things like this, where we organize, and a lot of us history folks are already communicating anyway. I think it's important that we are all on the same page with this. Like, even if, like, I'm really actually glad that Johnny was able to join us tonight, because he hasn't experienced it quite the same as Cypher and Griffin. So because we all need to unite, because it could be us next. We can see where this path leads. So, But other final thoughts before we do the unboxing from any of you?
I'd like to talk about our panel.
Sure. You can since you organized it.
So this is educational content, YouTube. So I don't know how much everybody knows about what the importance of academic panels are, so I'm just going to briefly explain that. As we mentioned earlier, panels are often considered like a legitimizing force in academia. So if you go to an academic conference, it's going to be littered with a bunch of panels, and you attend all of them. That's basically what an academic conference is. You just go to a bunch of panels. But what those panels also do is not only say, like, you know, here's some interesting research that's happening, but but it also says this is the cutting edge. This is where everything is going. Because people who have already established themselves in the history field, I can't speak to other fields, so excuse me for that. But in the history field, if you say, you know, are Eric Foner, then you don't need to establish yourself. You don't need to do panels. You're going to do like a couple of discussion panels just because you're invited. But if you need to establish yourself, then you go to these panels and say, hey, this is a thing. And so what we're doing, both Matt and I, are going to what's called the National Council on Public History and doing separate papers on YouTube. Well, for me, I'm doing it as like, what is the scholarly value of YouTube? And Matt is going to be doing it on the educational value. So, and the other person who's going to be there, panels tend to be 3 people. The other person is going to be Tristan from Step Back History, and he's going to be talking about activism, because activism is actually a pretty integral part of history. And so, I mean, who better to talk about activism through history than Tristan from Step Back History?
He's been demonetized quite a bit as well.
Yeah, I'm surprised he's not here either. He had other plans, I'm guessing. But like, that is, we're legitimately trying to legitimize YouTube in the eyes of academia. But all this demonetization stuff contradicts what we're trying to say. We're actually trying to legitimize YouTube in the eyes of academia. We are the forefront of this. And yet, YouTube, by demonetizing us, incentivizes us to say otherwise. And it's a very, I don't really know how I feel about it. I don't know how I'm going to write my paper now. I have a paper ready, and I have to change it now because of all of this.
Right. Okay. Well, final thoughts from Potential History or Armchair Historian? Whoever wants to go first.
Sure. I mean, I don't have too much to say. I won't take up too much time. I know we're already running late, but ultimately, none of us really know where things are going. But with the support of you guys and raising awareness about this and retweeting the stuff we say, hopefully, eventually, we can make some kind of difference. We're talking with other history YouTubers as well. We've got that website. We're trying to put some content on it too. And yeah, hopefully just by
armchairhistorian.com.
That's it. But the more events like this we do, and the more people who support us and watch and retweet and things like that, the more it helps us. I know people like feel guilty if they can't contribute monetarily or something like that. But I think on behalf of all of us, I'd like to say that just by watching these and retweeting and just by being kind of part of the community, that helps immensely, and that helps us keep going into what even Johnny said. It's not all about money. Like, a lot of us, if you started a YouTube channel because you thought you were going to get rich doing it, you're probably crazy, because it's so few
Yeah.
people who did that, who are doing that, and there's absolutely no guarantee that you're going to get monetized. So a lot of this, for a lot of us, this was just a passion project, and you guys are the people who keep this going. So I guess a thank you, and just here's to trying to get through this demonetization together.
All right, and Johnny?
One thing that we didn't touch on, but something that's been particularly frustrating to me, is also the removal and stuff of videos by non-professional YouTubers that are just uploading historical content and stuff. I saw somebody mention that a bunch of like German marching songs, footage of Hitler's speeches, war footage, things like that. I've noticed those in the past couple of months being harder and harder to find, and a lot of channels that specialize in uploading war footage and things like that have said they've had to take their things down, worried that they will be, their channels will be deleted and stuff. And that's another thing that's just really frustrating, because I understand, on the one hand, it's Hitler and he's, spouting his nonsense and all that stuff. But on the other hand, those are primary sources, things that, you want to be able to see and, take and give context to. And, there are things that are part of history that some people would argue YouTube isn't the place for, but because it's kind of the biggest, video sharing site and everything, and that's where people go to look for those things and learn from them and discuss them, and stuff like that. That's been something that's really frustrating to me, and something that I think, with the advertisers and stuff not being on things, I think you can make an understandable argument of how that's difficult for YouTube to deal with. But stuff like that that's non-monetized, just thrown up, to be like, here's what soldiers at the Battle of the Bulge looked like, here's what this was, and here's what the Eastern Front looked like, or what. Getting rid of that just solely because of what it is kind of disappointing.
Although that's
I've
not
seen
quite
really
a
be ramped up
demonetization
in,
issue.
Right. But
It's definitely an issue. It's just not a demonetization issue. That's a community guidelines issue.
Right, but I would say it goes hand in hand with just, you're talking about the suppression of things you could talk about in being demonetized with videos. People who do this full-time and create their own content that seems like to be another arm of it that I've found frustrating, that I think is probably influenced by the same things that are involved in their influence in the demonetization issue. So that's been something that's been annoying to me.
All right. Well, yeah.
Plus, that gives, just to add on to Johnny's thing, it gives power to people like you would know, Johnny would know the names. They're like Critical Past or something along those lines.
Yeah, Critical Past, all the other places that sell historical footage they don't own. They just happen to have a file.
That is literally public domain, and then they're allowed because there's some big corporation and they can advertise on the platform, and therefore they have immunity to everything. But these people who happen to have a good copy of it and aren't going to put a stupid watermark on public domain footage, then they get freaking taken off. So it actually reinforces a system, not to get all Marxist and everything, but it reinforces a form of capitalism that that removes anybody who is capable of competing. If anything, it's not anti-capitalism. It's more, we should have competition in the market, especially when it comes to public domain, because it's public domain.
It's Georgism, of course. Okay. What I could do here is make you guys awkwardly stay on it while I open up the box, or you can sign off. But I was going to do that to end my stream.
Mark, yeah.
Okay.
Sure, I will as well.
Okay, there might still be an echo because I unmuted your mics, but let's just go ahead and do this. All right. Wow. So this is what the box looks like. Have you all? I know
I'm the
Cypher's
only
about-
one.
Yeah, Cypher's about to get there, so.
4K to
4K to
go.
go.
I need the scissors. Here we go. Okay. I hope I don't scratch it here. This is exciting. So yeah, our love-hate relationship with YouTube. I mean, we'll end on a positive note here. I'm assuming this is the silver play button. Mrs. Beats here. She's also from. Oh yeah, they have a letter here. Oh, it's from Susan. We mentioned her earlier. Our friend Susan. Well, I can't say her last name, but you've done something that you've done something that very few YouTube creators accomplish. You had an astonishing 100,000 people subscribe to your channel. Thank you. If you're watching and you're subscribed, thank you. I'm not going to read that whole thing for you, but this is what it looks like. Wow.
She gave me the same copy-pasted heartfelt speech,
Nope.
too. So nice of her, spending that time.
I knew it. I thought it was special. But this is what it looks like. Yeah.
How'd it open?
It's actually lighter than I thought it would be. So, very nice. Very nice.
My screen's frozen. Is it the kind where the button itself is... Are they still doing the one with the mirror for the button?
It's a mirror.
It's a solid...
Yeah.
okay.
I can see myself. All right. So, pretty cool. I'll have to put this back here behind me for future live streams. But, yeah.
Read it out.
Heck yeah. Well, guys, I want to thank you so much for joining me tonight. I want to apologize to the viewers for the audio difficulties we've had. This is the first time we've used Skype since they got rid of Google Live Hangouts. But thank you for joining me and sharing your experience with demonetization and yeah. Let's start a movement. Let's let's build on this. All right. And
We can organize.
all right. Good night, everybody. Thanks for watching.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.